G'day friends, I'm back again. I'm back from holidays and I'm gonna film a quick flip through. I say quick, but we all know this is not gonna be quick. A little flip through of some of the journaling I got up to over the holidays. Now, on a normal 2-week span, as business operations proceed as per usual. Wow, that's an interesting sentence that I just came up with. I got holiday brain and jet lag brain. Please forgive me. In a normal 2-week span, I guess I should say, as I'm conducting business like I usually would, there'd be a lot going on. Now, when I was on holidays, I really relaxed and rested, and I didn't actually try to attempt anything. I just, whenever I felt like it, would pick up a journal, I would add something here, add something there. Sometimes I did a full spread, sometimes I just did a little illustration, and things came together in bits and pieces all over these 2 journals. There was some other random things in a different journal, but honestly nothing worth showing. But this one, I'm going to flip through these 2 journals that I worked on mostly in the holiday, and I guess you'll see as I flip through where my brain kind of took me and what I was just doing. I think it's really interesting to look at what you end up achieving when you're really relaxed, because most of the time I'm working to a deadline or trying to create content, put a video up or something, or when I was doing Patreon, that was really hectic and doing it like all day every day. So when you really take a break and stop to just do something intuitive and random, I think it's a bit of an interesting thing that happens, in that I just didn't really care what I was doing, and so I would work in a way that I wasn't typically working, or I haven't been working since I started this as a business. So it was a really nice departure from all of that and a really nice rest, and I just wanted to show you a couple of things today just to see how uneventful some of it was. This, for instance, I was actually just drawing this face and had such a great time with the watercolors. I don't know if you can pick that up there. This is designed by Rachel Beth Watercolors. I know I've mentioned this a billion times, but I've got about a billion more times I'm going to mention it. They're so good. Like, they're just so good. And Rachel doesn't sponsor me. Poor Rachel. I think we've accidentally pushed her into overdrive with how many people try to buy the palettes, but they're so worth it. They're all handmade, and especially the metallics. There's something about the way that her metallics work that I've just never seen in anything else. They're super pigmented, super reflective, and there's such an interesting color as well that I feel like you don't really get those types of colors unless you're getting a handmade watercolor, because there's a lot of time and attention to detail that she puts into the mixing. So here is, I just got carried away with the watercolors, to be honest, and came up with this. I put some lines in here because I thought it might be nice to do some journaling across here, but I didn't get to that. So that's what I'm saying about being on holidays. As much as I felt like writing it doesn't have to be perfect, and then I just moved on to something else. So I mean, I really love her face. I think it's really soft, and still using that pink color Eno pencil that I'm obsessed with. I think once I had finished this, I wanted to just do like a bit of random sketching. So I've had this in here forever. This was actually, I had done a project where I had cut out these with my scan and cut, which, poor thing, doesn't get used very much anymore. It's very cumbersome to set up. I don't typically really need to use it because I can hand cut a lot of stuff, but for this I had used it ages ago, and I still had this piece of paper, so I glued it in here. This was from one of the very first orange grab bags. Who remembers that? Put that down in the comments below if you remember that I had hand drawn every single one of these little Bianca images that I put in that thing. It was so time consuming, but very worth it, I felt. And so this was just a random page that I'd had forever, and I wanted to start sketching in these little feather cutouts, just sketching little feather characters in there. I came up with one, thought that was enough, left that, and then I wanted to play with the watercolors again, so I started putting them around the edge here, which then kind of, I'm going to be a bit out of sequence here, I'm so sorry, but as I was working on this, I thought this might be a really fun thing to teach over Christmas, because I really love the effect of how to put together this whole thing, but it's actually a very simple idea in principle. So I came up with a Christmas version with some little reindeer antlers and a red and white kind of candy cane color theme. So I do want to put a tutorial together on how to do this. I actually used one of my stamp sets to create this face. So if you have a face stamp, it's going to be even easier for you. But we'll see if I use the stamp for the tutorial. I'm pretty sure I will, but that's coming soon. Fingers crossed, hopefully. Not promising anything. What if I just disappeared over Christmas? Might happen. No, but I'm super rested, so hopefully I can get that out to you quicker than later, because I'd love for you to have a try. But this was some Xanadu Art Studio watercolors that I had in the background here. Lots of really fun, iridescent, shiny metallics going on in the background. I don't know whether I love that I did that, because I'd never really realized how off-center this image was. But in the end, it's done, and like the previous page said, it doesn't have to be perfect, so I'm just gonna run with that.
Watch me dancing in the colors, lightning, blowing up a thunder, watch it over me, yeah.
This is the mermaid spread from the trip to the mermaid pond, so I have a full video on and chatting about everything that we did here, and a nice little montage of all the clips that I took from the mermaid pond. Really love this as a snapshot to see all the kind of things that I was taken with while I was at the mermaid pond and kind of in the experience. It's a totally different thing to be in a situation and kind of sketching there, being inspired by the sights and the sounds and the smells and the people and you know, even the taste. Like if you're eating somewhere at a cafe, like which I totally was, it's a really interesting experience to go to that place, because I think you're you know, when you're a bit more relaxed, you tend to pull from a different area than when you're kind of stressed or kind of busy, or you know, if you've been on a one track kind of mind working on one project, then you dip out to do something else. I do think there is a bit of a difference there, so I couldn't tell you what it was. Like I have no idea. I'm not a neuroscientist or anything, but just from personal experience, I do know that being in a situation like when I go to Disneyland and people watch and sketch, I just tend to get inspiration a lot easier that way than I do, say, setting up the book at the table and thinking, okay, what am I going to do now? So really interesting there. I've got a full video on that, so I'll just leave that at that. This was just some random sketching I was doing, and I wanted to pull out the ink, so it was a water reactive pen, and I just got a water brush and kind of did that. It got very messy, so I started putting watercolor in there, and Mum was watercoloring off to the side at the same time, and she started to use orange, which I never really used, so I dipped into her orange, and it just kind of got really muddled and messy because of all that ink underneath started to pull back out and mix with the pink and orange. It was just kind of a mess at the end of the day, so it didn't bother me too much. This was like super random, and in the end I tried to save it with all this line work, but you know, who knows? This doesn't seem familiar to me. I don't know where this came from, but she's there now, so we'll leave that for another time. And this, I think, is the last thing in this book that I did on holiday, and it was actually because my nephew was using my little watercolor tin, and he'd done an amazing job of putting lots of different colors in all the different pans. So I just wanted to clean it up a bit and make the palette look brand new again. So I did have to swatch all of these out just to kind of remove all that color. But then it was a really interesting kind of swatch page. It's not a particular like color story that I would choose, but when I think about it, I've been using that palette a lot, and it's kind of the one that I gravitate towards first. So these are kind of the colors that I've been working in for a while now, which is really interesting to me because I've never seen them all swatched out in a palette side by side together like this. So it typically isn't what I would choose if I was putting a palette together. There's a lot of blues in there. There's not any bright red or, you know, bright pink or anything like that. So I found it interesting just to look at them all side by side, even the metallics, how they kind of blend together and work. It was just really interesting to me that I finally got a look at the palette that I was using. Let's move on to the other book. Now this is my off-camera journal, so there'll be a bunch of stuff in here that I don't know if you've seen before or perhaps have seen in various stages, but I never work in this journal on camera is my point. It is 100% off camera, and the reason I do that is because as I've started to, I shouldn't say start, it's been a while now, but as I started to take my business and kind of develop it and really try to run with that, I found that I was investing, you know, almost 100% of my time in business endeavors and forgetting a lot of the personal start to why I was creating in the first place, or, you know, it kind of got a little disconnected for me for a hot second, so I had to specifically make time to work just for myself, otherwise I never would. And it's really interesting when you're working off camera as opposed to on camera. I've said this before too, but your brain is in a different headspace. You know, even now I'm kind of checking to see that it's still recording. I'm kind of trying to be aware of what I'm showing and how I'm showing it, and you know, so that it's interesting for people to look at or maybe listen to. Your brain is in a different headspace. So what I try to do is put aside time every day or every other day to be able to work on something for myself, even if I'm super busy. And what I've noticed is all of those times where I'm working for myself and off camera end up sparking the ideas for what I take to camera and what I turn into a tutorial or what I make a video out of. It's in that kind of relaxed, peaceful, quiet time that I have to myself that I actually get a lot more out of the process. So that isn't new. Like, I've been doing this for most of this year, and I can say that it is truly beneficial. It doesn't seem like it at times. Sometimes there's a real urge for me to turn the camera on, but I know as soon as I film something done in this journal, I will no longer see it as that kind of safe space that I want to go to, that kind of detached area where I don't have to create something for people to see in here. Like, and you'll see as I flip through it, there's probably a lot of stuff that, you know, I wish was on camera, and some I've turned into a tutorial, some, you know, have made it into other versions of something online, but specifically this journal, I've never filmed anything in here. I got caught once. I think I caught myself when I was filming a studio vlog. I had the camera on and I was still filming, but I forgot. I turned it off straight away because I was like, I'm not tainting it. But it is something, I don't know if other people do that. I don't know if anyone else out there that does a lot of YouTube videos or perhaps does online courses, if you do a lot of stuff off to the side that is specifically off camera. But if you do, let me know how that goes for you, because I notice a big change in how I operate when I do this and commit to this. So just a lot of stuff in here, random stuff too. Like, this page was already done, but I just had a bit of journaling session that kind of made me think about something, and I kind of written it out, and then I thought, oh, that's something that I might want to remember. So I put the quote down in here, and it just says, turn your imaginative frenzy into a creative pursuit, because that's what I feel like I end up doing in this journal. Like, this journal, I can have all these frenzies. I can go nuts in here just exploring what I want to do, cutting a page up, trying a medium in here that doesn't possibly work with another medium, and all of those frenzied kind of chaotic moments where I'm just seeing what happens. If I get taken with it, then I can pursue it, and then that becomes its own thing. You know, it will lead on to something else, which might be something that, you know, I haven't tried before and maybe want to share. So that's what I kind of wanted to remember down here, that's a nice little thing, like still a bit of advice I think to follow for myself. So I just wanted to put that in there. And I think in that same journaling session, I had just kind of realized what I was doing. You know, I guess it's not until you step away from everything that you get a bit of clarity. You know, when you're so in it, you've got horse blinders on. And I think a lot of people always ask, you know, what's your job? When people meet me, or you know, I go and meet someone and they want to know how I'm going, or old friends even that I've worked with on cruise ships, or, you know, as a dancer, like, they ask what I'm doing now, and I always get kind of stuck saying what I do. I end up saying, oh, I work in social media and content creation, I do mixed media arts and crafts, but it's such a random thing to really piece together and specifically describe. It's not like you can say, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm, you know, I'm this and that. It's a weird thing, because I don't consider myself an instructor, I don't consider myself a teacher, I don't consider myself really even like a YouTuber, I don't consider myself a social media influencer, so I don't fit any of those categories specifically. Even like product designer, like I manufacture, like I get stuff made and I sell it in a store, but I'm not just e-commerce either. Like, it's such a random thing. So I figured that maybe the easiest way to describe it, which doesn't make any sense at all, but it made sense to me. I think I'm just exploring my imagination online, because that is really what I feel like I'm doing. If I get an idea, if I want to try something, whether it's the she leapt off the page, I mean, that's not mixed media arts and crafts, that's a styled photo shoot, that's creating a costume, you know, it's textiles and garment design and all that, you know, random stuff there. That is not you know, this is where I start to say, like, the categories really separate and I don't know where to put myself. But I think the one thing that really did make a lot of sense to me was that everything came from, you know, the desire to create something. It was in my imagination somewhere, it came up. If I seized it, if I grabbed it and just worked towards it, I would explore that and I would share it with you online, which, you know, there's the social media proportion of it. So interesting thought. I don't really know if that's going to clarify anything for anyone, but for me it made a lot of sense, and I also think it's a nice thing to think about whenever I'm getting a little too precious about content, where I think, oh, I've got to put out 5 tutorials because everyone's mad at me that I haven't taught anything. I think when I really take it back to why I feel like this has been a good, smooth journey, that, you know, doors open themselves, and essentially that's how I kind of feel how this has been. It's just because whatever kind of imaginative idea, whatever kind of you know, creative frenzy that I had, I could turn into like something to do. I could move forward with that, and it would be whatever it was. I think it's a fun process to look at because you get to see where the failures happen, you get to see what the resolutions are, you get to see tips and tricks and behind the scenes, you get to see someone enjoy themselves or possibly get really angry at themselves. And I think that well-rounded picture is probably what makes me gravitate towards people that do the same thing, because it is so easy to put across everything that is good and simple and clean and neat and perfect, but it is just a lot more interesting to see where people struggle. And that's something that I've always kind of struggled with, is to display that. So good thing for me to think about. Even just talking about it now, this really doesn't clarify what I do, but I like the idea of it. So let's just move on. The mermaids were already there. This was just me putting the text in.
Where you wanna go?
Here I've done some journaling. This was literally just this and the word embark in the journal for so long. And I always thought, I'm going to have something really great to journal about here, and it's going to be very mermaid related because this is all mermaids. But in the end, I actually just ended up journaling. This is the happiest memory. It's a prompt from Little Raven Inc. over on Patreon is doing a month of gratitude. So there's kind of lots of prompts. Now, I don't necessarily relate to some of the prompts because I don't have kids or anything. So I've taken some of the prompts and done them, and then some have just used the idea of being grateful for something else. So that's actually been really fun to journal about, lots of gratitudes. I find myself stuck because I'm writing what I'm thankful about, but I also want to put down what I'm irritated by in there. And I don't know why that's my prerogative. Like, I should just be focusing on the one thing, but I don't know, it's like I'm trying to level myself out, like be thankful for this, but be careful of this. And it's just a random thing that I noticed with myself as I was writing. So it's been a nice challenge actually to not only find the things I'm grateful for, because there's a bunch, like there's so many things I'm grateful for, but to only focus on that. Because a lot of the time when I find I'm journaling and actually writing, it's in my Cruella de Vil journal off to the side, and it can be a lot of venting, it can be a lot of just releasing a lot of stuff. So I think my brain has kind of thought, whenever I'm writing, get everything out. And the stuff that kind of wants to come out first so I can purge it out and get over it is a lot of venting stuff and a lot of things that irritate me or frustrate me or make me upset. So actually just focusing on some of the positive and finding even new adjectives to describe how grateful I am has been a bit of a challenge. So it's sad to admit that, but I'm just going to tell you that that's what's happening on these pages, and that was a random challenge I didn't expect to face, which was illuminating. But I like this. I've got my HP sprocket out because I haven't used it in a hot minute. It is kind of something I only use when I travel, because I can print from my home printer much more economically at home. So since I was traveling, I just decided to use it. I've got some photos in here of my nephew, then my sister, that's his mother. Some Australian breakfast, because I forgot how good Australian food tasted. It honestly tastes different. The avocados taste different. The tomatoes taste different. Bacon is it's undoubtedly different. I mean, here in the States, it's always crispy and kind of like a thin strip that almost looks a little wavy, like a crinkle cut chip. But at home, it's that middle bacon. I'm not going to go on about bacon, but I was obsessed. Obsessed enough to print a photo and chat about it. So had a really great time on holidays. My nephew and I were planting seeds. We planted watermelons and sunflowers. I'm not the biggest fan of sunflowers, but my mum loves them for some reason. So we were planting those outside, and mum snapped this shot. And I just thought it was such a beautiful memory to keep. And especially since I love drawing leaves, whenever I need to kind of chill out or do something very repetitive, very monotonous to kind of, take my brain away, I end up drawing leaves or loops. It's just a given, stripes maybe, just lots of lines, and leaves is something that I love to draw. So just a bit of journaling. This was a part of the stencils and pencils tutorial from Mermaid back in May this year. You can see here, this is the full page that I had done first when I wanted to when I had the idea to do it. I did it in this journal first, and then I created the video for it, and then I did a bunch of samples, and this was always, I'd only ever finished this one here, and it just annoyed me that it wasn't finished. So whilst I was on holiday, I thought, great, crack on to that, get it finished, it's done, goodbye, thank you, good night. And love that it's finished now. I did a bit of journaling here as well, just about imagination. This is where that quote came from, imaginative frenzy to creative pursuits, and that's why I wanted to put it over here, because I'm less likely to go back and that's, even though I put it in capitals, it's not really going to stand out to me, so I wanted to make sure that it was somewhere else that was a bit more, it had a bit of a focus. This page was from the foam stamps tutorial. I don't know if this was on the video. It probably wasn't actually, because this is an off-camera journal. But I was using these stamps to kind of clean up the excess, and so I'd stamped a couple of things here. These have always looked like monster eyes, but I've never known what to do with it. I still don't have any idea what to do with it, but I had this little sticker floating around. It's a print from one of my collage sheets on Etsy, and I slapped it right there because it had orange on it. I thought, this is going to come together somehow. I have no idea how, but I know it will, so put that there, and you can see I've kind of started to try and merge that into the page. We've talked about this before when you're collaging or kind of adding things to pages. If there's a way you can pull, you know, what's in the foreground into the background, I feel like it really flattens it out and things look less, you know, cut and pasted on. Kind of looks intentional, but like you've made a real artistic decision there when in fact you really haven't at all. So I just put legs on it, and I thought that'll bring it into the page, but you know, this is nowhere near finished and I have no idea for it. This page here, I've just kind of slapped on some watercolor and did a few little boxes, and pulled more of those prompts from Little Raven Ink's prompts list. She had Tribe and Book Love. Book Love was interesting because it was probably one of the first ones that I did, and I actually thought this was a prompt that didn't speak to me at all, because I'm not a big reader. I don't find reading enjoyable really. I'd love to read a fashion magazine or you know, like something like that, an instruction manual for something that I want to learn, but I'm not a big, you know, reader of books. I kind of got to book 5 on Harry Potter and then left it there. I've read a few books. I read all the Hunger Games books, loved that. So I guess I love teen non-fiction. Fiction? Non-fiction. It's fiction. See? I'm not a reader. I read all the Hunger Games. I read Ellen DeGeneres, Seriously, I'm Kidding. I read that on a flight. I remember this so vividly because I read the whole thing from cover to finish on a flight, and it was so funny. I was laughing out loud. Ellen has such a pure sense of humor, which I find so difficult to find anywhere else. You know, you don't really see that a lot. Sometimes you know, and I can laugh at adult humor. I can laugh at really basic humor, maybe even slapstick every now and again. But it is such a funny book to read to yourself. I don't know if you can get your hands on it. It's called Seriously, I'm Kidding, and it is really funny to me. I think it's called Seriously, I'm Kidding. Maybe I'm thinking of her television special. She has one called Here and Now. Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. It's Ellen's book. I think she's only got one. Oh, but the book club, I guess I wanted to say, I did find something to be really grateful for in books, and that was creating my own books. I'd had this in here. These were all the little test prints from when I made the class companions from my in-person workshops, and I had them all printed out because I wanted to see the colors, but I had to print it on a gloss, and all I had was sticker paper. So essentially I had stickers of 3 full books that I had made for the classes, and I put them all in here because I thought they'd be fun to have in here, but they take up a chunk of room, and there's not much you can do around them. So don't know what I'm going to do for that, but I thought here, let me just be thankful for these books because they were something that I found really, really helpful as I was teaching the course, and something that I would love to move forward with, possibly creating new workshops or even in online courses, maybe having a companion book for that, but I'm just not quite sure yet. So I did find something to be grateful for in that, that I had the ability to put those together and you know, publish them myself. Self-publishing, I never thought was a real thing that people could do. I thought you always had to be asked to make a book, and until someone thought you were good enough, you could never do it. And then you realize you can. So once I realized I could, that's it. This I don't think I did on holidays, but I did want to just show it to you because it's so simple. Like, it's actually just a print of another print image from my collage sheet, and I just kind of put these leaves. More leaves. You know, I must have had to take my brain off something here, but I put my leaves on here, and it was already painted with this leftover gouache in the background, and then I just did some journaling. This was probably one of the most simple pages to put together, but there's just something so beautiful about it, and I don't know what it is, but just wanted to show you that, even though I didn't do it on holidays. Oh, I wanted to show you this too. Look, this is where Daisy came from. This is one of my little notes about Daisy in the beginning. It's so funny. That's all she was. That was the idea, and I wanted to remember it, so I keep her in there. I think her name was going to be Mabel at one point. Here's a spread that actually kind of came together in a bunch of different stages. I was testing out these Neo Pico alcohol markers before I left, and did this little swatch doll off to the side here with the color gradient dress. Those were all the alcohol markers, and I bought a grayscale set because all my grayscale Copics are out of ink, which is bizarre to me because I feel like I never use gray. But apparently I did once upon a time, and apparently I went ham with it. So I wanted to replace them, but I thought, let me try something different. There's never usually a different alcohol marker that I want to try, but I had seen Courtney Diaz use the Neo Pico before, and once I found out there were alcohol markers, I thought I would try that, and there was a grayscale set on Amazon, so there you go. I actually really like them. I think they're really beautiful. But I had sketched that out, and then as I was going through the holiday, I'd had a stamp that I just kind of stamped on there. This is one of my face-based stamps. I kind of drew on top of it, and had my Decora set, kind of added some of those elements in there, created this little thing, had a new watercolor pencil that I wanted to try, so I sketched this out and activated the pigment in there, and it became this loose kind of weird lanky thing. You can see I was very inspired by Australia with this Akubra hat. I thought it was going to be a really chic, really big sun hat, but then I put these little leaves from the bottom. Now it just looks like an Akubra, so I thought that was a really happy accident, and I put my kangaroos up there just to remind myself of that. But I ended up journaling all over it. You can see I went nuts with the HB Sprocket prints. You can see they're really little. I have a whole video on doing mini prints on HB Sprockets, so if you want to check that out, I'll put the little little descriptor card up the top hand corner here, and you can see that, because I do think it is still very expensive to use an HB Sprocket, and I do want you to get the most out of it, and that you don't always need the full photos. So I wanted to put a tutorial together to show people how to do that. You just get an app, and it's all self-explanatory in that video, but I'll link it up the top just in case. And it's also a nice way to get the photos a little smaller if you're working in a journal that's a little smaller. This is an A5 size, and I think this is a great size for me. I think this is actually the Goldilocks size for me personally, because I can illustrate a lot in here, and I can also put my photos in. If I wanted to put little slip little things in here, I could. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that because there's a full video on that. These random washi tapes you'll see everywhere, these were actually because you can see there's some black kind of paint scraped across the page. There was lots of little dots of, I think, ink or something that I didn't want to look at. It was really annoying me. I couldn't focus on the full page as I saw everything. I was trying to draw around it or trying to weave in between it, and eventually I just thought, why not cover it up? So I've used some Ali Brown washi tape to cover up all the spots that were annoying me, and so if you think that those are artistically placed, they are not. They are covering up things that I don't want to see. I probably could have put one there too, but I didn't. And then I've got my little Tim Holtz stickers here, the little book text stickers, which are still my favorite little stickers to put in. It's just bizarre to me how every time I need the perfect saying, there's one in there. I actually leave them in my my journal here. You can see they're all in there. I leave them in my Chic Sparrow just so that I always have access to them, because they always come in handy, and they're actually really fun to layer over washi. They create these little collage clusters everywhere, so curious. This is a Darkroom Door stamps. Rachel attended the, Rachel of Darkroom Doors, sorry, I should have mentioned, attended the meet and greet that we had in when I went home. Thank you so much again to anyone watching that was at that meet and greet. I had such a fantastic time, and it was so wonderful to meet you all. I literally loved every second of it, and I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to try and meet and greet people everywhere. It's really different to the workshops, which I also really loved. There was a sense of calm about me going to a meet and greet because I didn't have to teach anything. So that was really nice too. And the fact that we all got to look through each other's journals. My mum learnt a ton about art journaling that day. I mean, she could not stop talking to me about it. And then she had she went on YouTube to go and search for something, and I saw her in the YouTube search bar. She'd searched for everyone that she had met that day, looking for all your YouTube channels. So so yeah, you really got her into something there. So I'm gonna blame you if she starts stealing more of my stuff. But this was a stamp from Darkroom Door, and Rachel actually gifted me a bunch of stamps and some stencils to play with, and Mum co-opted the Sydney one quick smart, and she got some use out of that. But I have them all here with me, and my favorite is the frame stamp here, just because I love to frame things. I think if you're always kind of looking for how to deal with a background and you just don't know what to do, actually framing it is one of the most simple things to do. It's actually how this kind of of an idea came up ages ago, and I think that's why I want to teach that as kind of like a Christmas tutorial, just to work on that idea and help you out a little bit, because backgrounds, I always draw what I want to draw first and then struggle with what to add in the background. Typically, if I'm thinking and I know what I want to do and it's planned out, I will start with the background and then kind of put the stuff in over the top. So the framing is a great technique. I guess maybe you don't even need a tutorial. Maybe that was enough. Just frame whatever's lying on your page and it will be fine. But this stamp definitely came in handy. Here I've already shown you this one. This is my stamp and the little candy cane background that I want to show. So hopefully we'll get to that pretty soon. In the Mermaid Pond video from Southwest Rocks, I explained that I redid one of the images that I liked from that page in this journal. This is it here. I did it on the plane. It is not something that I enjoy. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. Trying hard not to rip it out because I just don't love it. I don't know why. Like, I know that it kind of looks a little interesting, but maybe because I started with this circle and now I can't stop seeing that circle. I also don't like her eyes. I think they just look really dark and weird. I don't know. Just not loving it, but I still really like the idea of mermaids not having a fishtail, but actually a fish. A full fish. Full fish fantasy. Okay, this kind of goes with the next page as well, and this is actually the last page that I'm going to show. I've been practicing a lot of these really rough graphite sketches because I love the style of it. It's super messy. I mean, like, I smudge everything everywhere, but I don't know. I've practiced this. If you go back and see the sketch flicks I did for the Little Mermaid, you'll have seen this kind of an image come up, and I've always wanted to explore it more, but I mean, I did that one so long ago, and I just haven't really honed in on it and actually had a look at how that style comes together and what I like about it and what I want to show with it. So this is kind of a little bit of an exploration in that, seeing how simple some of them can be, seeing how detailed some of them can be, working in the negative space with the pencil texture, just super fun. It was literally all done with mechanical pencil and it was my Pilot OPT mechanical pencil and the Blackwing 602. That's all I used for these, and there's just something so whimsical about them, and I actually think they're kind of easy to put together. You'd be surprised at how easy this is to achieve. I mean, maybe you won't be, they look kind of easy, but I don't know what your eyes are seeing, but my eyes are seeing something that looks effective, I guess I should say, not easy. So I wanted to do this and give it a bit of a Christmas spin, have her little twig antlers on there, but I wanted to have her holding a twig and just put lots of little red berries as a nice little accent. So she's giving me very woodland vibes, very whimsical. Steve said she looked like, what did he say? I want to say Pottery Barn, but it does. Anthropology? Is that it? Something like that. Something very alternative. He said it looked... I think it was Anthropology. I don't know where he got that from. Maybe the dress. But I really, really love this. So I do want to look into this more. And I put on Instagram as well that when I do my online courses, which I have planned for 2019, this is something that I would love to do, possibly a whole course on these specific illustrations, or possibly looking at my whimsical illustration workshop that I teach and making the online version of that for people that can't get to actual in-person workshops. So lots of ideas floating around there. I'm sorry that I'm kind of teasing them at you for now, but I think it is something that we can look forward to for next year, because this year has been a big one, and I think I'm just going to kind of slow down towards Christmas. I'll have my YouTube videos up, I'll have some tutorials, I'll have some fun little journaling stuff going on, but really looking forward to everything that we have planned for next year, and so happy to have taken a break before all of that started. I kind of got to the point where I thought I was going to burn out and just needed to reset a little bit, and I hadn't been home for 2 years, and I just was really, really homesick, which has never happened to me before. I've been gone out of country since I was 18 years old, and I guess 10 years of being away just kind of really hit me all of a sudden. So I wanted to, I mean, there's been times I've lived there, of course, and after my accident I was there for a while, but I think as you get older, I've heard this before, but you get a lot more sentimental, and, family means everything to me. I think it means everything to a lot of people, and sometimes it does make me feel very, far away when I think about how hard it is to go and visit. So since I saw an opportunity, I just kind of grabbed it and thought, go home, have a bit of a rest, enjoy the family, and come back really refreshed before the new year starts so that I can just keep offering you the best of what I have. So thank you for joining me for this really quick random flip through of my holiday journaling. If you want to do any of that good YouTube stuff like liking and commenting and subscribing and clicking bells, go for gold. I'm not quite sure if it means anything anymore, but we'll see. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.
We just reboot.